Hi guys, Jonathan here once more. This one is pretty bizarre. You might have seen one like it floating around online, because we did some years ago. But apart from that, this is the only one that I've seen. And that includes some of the blogs and YouTube channels that cover material from this part of the world, because we do know at least roughly where it came from. And that is the Khyber region. So the tribal areas of Pakistan are typically called the Khyber Pass, but it's the wider region. Famous for their gun makers, gunsmiths. They make everything from some pretty basic stuff to some seriously impressive stuff that is, factory standard, and everything in between. They're almost like the Belgium of the 20th century. Belgium in the 19th century was similar range of quality and variety as what comes out of parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And some of them are using just hand tools. The sort of meme is that they make AKs with just basic hand tools. That's pretty uncommon. They are mostly using electrically driven tools, but the conditions compared to your typical factory, anywhere in the world really, are quite basic. And there is use of hand tools, and in the finishing in particular. So you'll often see a bit of sort of melty looking surface finish where the edges have been just ground off and sort of buffed. The finish might be a sort of cold blue that doesn't look as quality as a factory-made gun, but again, it's a sort of a spectrum. So we know that this comes from that region. A lot of the weapons out of that part of the world are straight copies or slightly tweaked copies, things like the Tokarev series of pistols, just off the top of my head. And actually some, for a while at least, riffs on the Mauser C96, the broom handle. And there is, I think, and this is where we start playing guessing games about what the influences on this thing are. I think it'd be hard to deny that there isn't at least a distant connection to that format of pistol, also shared by the Astra series of pistols, and perhaps the closest analogy from that side of things would be the Schnellfeuer and the Chinese fully automatic broom handle derivatives, because this is in fact, if we were to ignore the stock, much more of a machine pistol design. A magazine in front of the pistol grip instead of inserted into it. Rough configuration, although it doesn't have the long unsupported barrel of the broom handle family, so that's a major point of departure. But the design of the frame, this external hammer, it's pretty superficial, the similarity, other than in the chambering. So the other one that cropped up online, or photos of it, was marked on the side 7.63 millimeter, which is the original 7.63 by 25 cartridge type for that C96. Now, that's dimensionally interchangeable with 7.62 by 25. The major difference there is the propellant. So the 7.62 is way hotter than 7.63 for the original Mauser. Something you need to be aware of if you have broom handle Mausers. You should not be feeding those a diet of 7.62 Tokarev ammunition because it's too powerful. And I would venture that the same is true of this thing. I wouldn't fire. I probably wouldn't fire it, to be fair. Just it's not gone through proof. It's not necessarily. You'd need to at least inspect it fully to see if it's safe to shoot. But if you were going to shoot it, it'd be probably 7.63. So I think this is in 7.63 Mauser. Right. So what else can we compare this to meaningfully? We try not to just go off superficial features. Although with something as wacky as this, I think any guess is probably fair. Well, there's also the Chinese Type 80 machine pistol / submachine gun. Now, for me, a submachine gun, a machine pistol has to not have a buttstock. So I would call this a submachine gun. As much as it owes a debt to conventional pistol designs, more so than submachine guns, it has a buttstock. So does the Chinese Type 80. Now that was a sort of follow-up with a bit of broom handle lineage for the Chinese, trying to replace their various C96 derivatives. So harking back to those, but creating something new. So that was around certainly in the 1980s. There's also the Mauser 08/06, which is Germany, or rather the Mauser company's follow-up to their own series of Mauser broom handle type pistols. That was a prototype, didn't actually get mass produced. And this does look quite reminiscent to that. Now, this is where you have to be very careful, because I very, very much doubt that the guys in Afghanistan, Pakistan have ever heard of or seen a Mauser 08/06. It's a collector's item with a high price tag. I think that's a pure coincidence. Well, so the one thing we can definitely say that this is based on is its buttstock is the AKS pattern buttstock. Or if you wish, you can roll it back to the MP38, MP40 submachine gun. But given the weapons that are readily available in that part of the world, it's far more likely this is inspired by an AKS or AKMS than it is the World War II German submachine gun. It is functional. Press the button and fold. And of course you have to fold the butt plate flat. And it sits roughly like that, at which point it sort of is a machine pistol. It doesn't latch in place particularly. In fact, we can snug it right up like that, which makes it a bit neater in silhouette, but there's nothing latching it in place. Although it does fit quite well just through sheer friction. And that's the release catch there. Just a little button. Never the best folding stock design in the world, to be honest with you. Even whether it was the Germans or the Russians designing it, it's inherently rickety, and this one is no exception. I mentioned the magazine in front of the grip rather than being part of it. Magazine catch is a screw here. Press the screw. It's not actually a screw, although it has a... Well, what it is a screw screwed through the other side of the gun into a plate. And the plate is what latches the magazine in place with a notch in it. So a perfectly sound design. It's just that the button you press would normally be something a bit more Gucci than a flathead domed screw. But it works. The magazine is impressively enough proprietary, and the term for these would be craft-produced firearms, by the way. I wouldn't call it improvised. It is it's just a somewhat handmade design. So they've actually designed and made their own magazine. It is dual column feed, which in theory would make it quite reliable, and they look like they might have got the curvature right for the cartridge as well, which will help as well. We don't know how efficiently this actually works because we're not going to shoot it. What else have we got? Well, the slide. Now, this isn't necessarily obvious just from looking at it, but this is in fact straight blowback operated, which is another reason you probably wouldn't want to shoot 7.62 Tokarev in it. So there's nothing locking it shut, which is just as well, because I can't take it apart to show you the insides anyway, because this screw, which appears to be the disassembly system, appears to be stripped, and it's just rotating in place, but equally just won't come out. So, but it actually will lock open on an empty magazine. It's a nice feature, which means we can show you the breech and the breech face. The extractor, like a C96, lies across the top. Well, on that it's on the bolt, on this it's on the slide. That's a serious point of departure between the C96 and this. That's a bolt running inside a frame, or a barreled upper essentially. This is a conventional pistol slide with these long sort of Desert Eagle style extensions to give it more mass while allowing a fixed barrel. It has cocking serrations. It has serrations on the hammer. It also has a sort of race gun pistol style cocking lever, which is interesting. I'm not I have to imagine that's where they picked that idea up from. Although on those guns, that's because you've got some sort of sight mounted above and you can't easily grasp the slide. Here, I'm not really sure what it's doing. And although this is quite nicely finished, there is no evidence for any kind of sight base or anything. So you've got a shoulder stock for accurate aiming. You've got a cocking handle that allows you to avoid a sight, but it doesn't have any sights. We have a sort of birdcage machine gun style flash suppressor on there, which seems a little excessive for 7.63 Mauser or even for 7.62 Tokarev. And we have this guide rod, standard feature of a self-loading pistol, sticking out the bottom. There is no slide release or slide stop, it just holds open on the follower, and so as soon as you remove the magazine, it goes forward. Now that's a bit of a problem because you've got lock open when empty, you go to change your magazine and the bolt or the slide closes. So it's not a full hold open system. It just locks open as a visual indicator that you are empty. That's better than nothing. There's some knurling behind this flash hider, flash suppressor. I don't think that serves any practical purpose. We have seen knurling as a decorative feature on some guns from this region before. I think that's what that is, because this is well on there, it's not coming off, and if it did come off, you'd want some flats to crank it off. You wouldn't, finger grooves effectively aren't going to help you get this on and off. So I think that's decorative. Interesting that the guide rod does stick proud of the slide. I'm not really sure why that is. We have this very vertical, or relatively vertical grip, which I think is partly what gives this its sort of broom handle adjacent look, although the grip panels are carved polymer, they're not wood. All in all, quite a fascinating, and I won't say unique piece, as I say, there's at least one other, and it's very, very rare that Khyber gunsmiths will only make one thing. They will typically make, they might each be slightly unique, but this will be part of a type, if you like. It'd be interesting to see if there are any more out there. If anyone knows of any more, please do let us know. I'm not sure I'll be able to put together a typology or anything, but it's fascinating to see what's being made out there. So I would call that an original design. It's got cues from various different guns, or at least similarities to them, but it's its own thing, and it's really quite interesting. Apart from the lack of sights, the other thing that lets this thing down in the accuracy department, and to be fair, in the quality department, is the barrel. Now, it's a little hard to show you the bore, as we can't get the barrel off. Trust me when I tell you that it is very, very rough. It's not even been properly reamed, it certainly has never been rifled, and there is a big cavity partway down as well that would be a potential problem in terms of build-up of pressure and bulging and exploding of the barrel, that kind of thing, albeit with relatively low pressure cartridges and blowback action. But again, we're not going to shoot it. So no rifling, no sights. That would make more sense if this thing had no buttstock. Is the buttstock purely cosmetic? Is it just there to look cool? Was it, who knows? Was this an order for a specific individual? Are there other ones out there that are rifled? Unfortunately, we don't know. We also don't know exactly where or when this came from. Well, we know the region, and we know that it was acquired by the Pattern Room in the Ministry of Defence collection in 1996. So this predates the recent war in Afghanistan. It's not collected from an insurgent or something. It's been collected as an example of an unusual type for the awareness of Western services, basically. Like a lot of things in the former Ministry of Defence Pattern Room collection. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that one. There are ways that you can support us, but by far what we would appreciate the most, two things really. Firstly, like and subscribe and all that YouTube stuff. But secondly, we do have 3 museums that are, if you're in the UK, now or in the future, you should definitely come and visit. If you are in the UK this summer, we have a series of Elizabethan-themed events going on, horse shows in particular, and that culminates in an Elizabethan version of the joust, actual jousting with lances, which is something that we are known for and is well worth checking out if you never have. Not many places you can do that. Also, you can check out our various social media outlets through the website. So we really appreciate you. Catch you again next time.